Welcome back. We're here to preview Saturday afternoon's Premier League game between Stoke City and Crystal Palace. Matt, we'll start with Palace. They played on Saturday lunchtime last time and it was a convincing 3-1 win over QPR.
Yeah, it was a very good performance, wasn't it? I really liked it. The fact that it was sort of an old-fashioned game with the wingers, Balassi and Zaha have both been decent. Balassi coming back from the African Cup of Nations and sort of settled right back in. He's one of those players that if he's great, he's excellent, isn't he? But if he's poor, he's really poor. His end product needs to improve, but it has improved recently, certainly. And Zaha on the opposite side, see, that's one of the goals, wasn't it? Whipping it in, and Zaha gets himself on the score sheet, got himself injured in the process as well. But I think as Pardew's brought that back, under Warnock, you didn't really see too much of that, did you? You don't really see too much of it in English football anymore, do you? Two out-and-out wingers and getting the opposite winger inside the box, which is important when you're playing one up front. Obviously, Glenn Murray has been in good form as well, sort of out front, in the final third as well. And Dwight Gallagher, they've got people now who can sort of threaten teams, haven't they? You never thought they had that earlier on in the season, and let's say it was a really good win. They were 3-0 up at half time, and the game was dead then, wasn't it? The second half was a bit sort of bitty, and obviously QPR got that absolute worldie, didn't they, from Matt Phillips? It was a stunning strike, and 3-1 probably flattered QPR a little bit because Palace were sort of on top for the majority of the game. Some of the QPR defending was horrific at times, but to get a win at that stage and to win so convincingly, obviously great for the fans, great for the club, and Pardew certainly lifted things there.
And I think it was a big win given that obviously Burnley, I don't think many people saw them beating City, but with Burnley winning, obviously they're the one at the top of the bottom three, and Palace had been beaten by QPR. I don't think many people saw that. Obviously QPR away from home been terrible this season, but if Palace had lost that game, it would only be 5 points back to the bottom three, so it would have been a little bit worrying, but now they're 8 points clear of the bottom three, looking pretty safe. Obviously not many games left in the season now, and they're 12th in the table. They look pretty safe there. You'd be very surprised if they do get dragged back into it, because under Pardew they have looked pretty good, like you said. They've got a lot of options up there. I mean, Glenn Murray's come in, he's now starting up front, which is quite a surprise because he was on loan at Reading earlier on in the season, back in the Championship. He was very unlucky because obviously when Palace first came up a couple of seasons back, he was the top scorer in the whole Championship, got that season-ending injury, completely ruined that season he could have had first season back in the Premier League. But he's come in, he's now the starting striker, and they've obviously got the likes of Campbell, Shamak, Sanogo's there as well, and like you said, with Zaha and Balassi, the way they're going at the moment, they'll always give you chances, so things looking pretty good for them, and I would be very surprised if they get dragged back into it.
Yeah, I think people questioned Pardew when he went there, didn't he, whether it was sort of the right move and stuff, but I think he felt that Newcastle didn't have full control, and I think he has that at Palace, doesn't he? He has I think he'll have money to spend in the summer, to fill the areas he feels he thinks that need to be filled, but they've got a good squad there, haven't they? Obviously they're missing their best player at the moment, probably Jedinak, he's a suspension, obviously deserved to be suspended, for that poor sort of elbow, forearm, whatever you want to call it, but he's obviously massively important to them. The fact they're coping without him and coping so well is really impressive, and you think they're a match for any team in the league when they're at home and they're playing really well. And so away from home as well now, obviously they've got the pace in the final third, it gives you sort of an outlet, doesn't it? And like I said with Balassi, and I think people coming in talk about managerial changes and whether it works, and it was going a bit stale under Neil Warnock, wasn't it? I think if Neil Warnock would have been there, they probably might have still been sort of down in the bottom three, but talk about teams, Aston Villa changing their manager, Sunderland, and I think people are looking, when it goes a bit sort of, you feel like you aren't getting anywhere, it's worth a change, and the one for Pardew, the change has certainly worked.
Definitely. I think they changed at the right time of the season, wasn't it? You look at Sunderland now changing as late as they have, you wonder if that might be a bit too late to change things, but I think for Pardew coming in when he did, he had a good half of the season left, I think it was the right move for them, but this isn't going to be an easy game for him at all. He's going to a Stoke side in pretty good form. They lost last time, but they had won their previous 3 in a row before that. The game at West Brom, disappointing for Mark Hughes, obviously against Tony Pulis, now at West Brom. I think it was they don't love each other too much, those two managers, so I think it was they both would have viewed it as a real big game, and obviously West Brom coming out on top 1-0. It was always going to be quite a cagey game with those two sides going up against each other, but obviously for Stoke not to score is disappointing, but they did win their previous 3 games in a row before that. They're 8th in the table, that's a great position for them. You look at the sides above them, Spurs are the side above them in 7th who are 8 points clear, so they're not going to catch the top 7, but if they can finish top of all the other sides, ignoring the top 7, that'd be a fantastic achievement for them, and just so many players, contributing at the moment. They've got contributors, all areas of the pitch at the moment, haven't they?
Yeah, I think Stoke, so their home form this season, I mean, I think they've only lost 3 games at home since mid-September, but overall they've lost 5 times at home this season, which is more than they've lost away, which is quite surprising. You always think about Stoke being strong at home, but I think there's not too much of a surprise because Stoke under Pulis were very strong, solid, weren't they? But they've got more flair now under Mark Hughes. Players going forward. Victor Moses, obviously Bojan, when he was on the field, obviously got that terrible injury. But people who can affect the game now, and they've always got Peter Crouch on the bench who can offer him a different option than he does. And I think the next 2 games though after this are Chelsea and West Ham away. So obviously they're 2 difficult games. So Mark Hughes will certainly be keen to get back to winning ways here because, like I say, they lost last time out. If they don't get a good result here and then they only pick up maybe a point for the next 2, it sort of goes a bit sort of disappointing really. So massive game this one.
Definitely. I think you look at the league table now. Stoke, then they're just safe now. But I think the thing for them is finishing 8th. If they can finish that position below the big 7 at the top, it would be such an achievement for them. And like you say, they're quite a winnable game here against Palace. What's your score prediction?
You almost fancy Stoke at home, but I think Palace, like I say, the fact they've got that threat that can be used on the road now. Their away form this season, only lost 5 away from home of 15, so they don't tend to lose on the way. Certainly not recently. So I'm actually going to back a draw. I'm going to go 1-1.
1-1. Yeah, I think it's a really tight game to score. You can see either side winning it or a draw, but I'm just going to give Stoke the edge because the West Brom result was disappointing, but on the whole they are in really good form. So I'm going to back Stoke to win 2-1. So we've got 1 draw and a Stoke win. Thanks for watching.